Welcome to the Command Center podcast. I'm Logan Paulson here with none other than the mouth of the South himself, Fred Smoot, and Santana Moss.
Can't shut him up.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Dewey Cox? That's what I call you.
Dewey Cox.
Yeah,
so you
blind.
made that reference earlier. Like, is he smell blind in the movie?
Yes, and you smell blind in real life. So at the end of the day,
in the movie, how does that affect him?
Well, he tried to smell a turd and he couldn't do it. He started crying.
Dewey Cox off the show Walk
Hard.
Yeah, Walk Hard. That
Hard.
Is it? I've never seen it. Is it worth seeing?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I love John C. Reilly, first of all.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love John C. Reilly, and he is playing Dewey Cox
played the
to
hell out
the
of that.
T. I love it.
Look, it's so crazy because that movie came out after the whole Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love them in Talladega
Yeah,
Nights.
yeah.
So when I saw that, I had to watch it because he killed Talladega Nights. So,
Yeah.
but that man, Dewey Cox,
Hey, listen.
bro, he'll be your favorite. Like, look, you watch that Walk Hard, and you gonna be crying.
Hard.
Dog. He had
That's
me in
my
tears.
creed.
Yeah. That's so funny. Because he was excellent in Step Brothers. I love
Yeah,
the
all
Step
that.
Brothers.
Most definitely.
Talladega
Talladega
Nights.
Nights.
No,
Step Brothers,
and Winning Time.
Yeah.
Winning Time.
Yeah, the Lakers story.
Oh, I haven't seen that
He
yet.
playing what's
Forgot
his
about
name?
that.
Yeah, he playing
I
Dr.
haven't watched
Bus.
that yet.
Is he good at it?
He played Dr.
Well,
Bus.
you know, it's
to
crazy
the T.
because he's one of those kind of comedians that
They don't give
also
enough credit to. Like,
is a good actor.
Yeah.
And he won a Oscar for, I think, Chicago, where he was singing.
No.
He sang in that movie.
He's so good at what he do. He just ain't your average pretty boy.
Can we get to 3 wins this week
Ooh, great
against
question.
the Atlanta Falcons?
Great
That's
question.
my question.
That is
Yeah.
the question.
And so let's start with our first super high-level thoughts like we always do. Then we'll get into the details of the matchup a little bit. First off, general impressions of the Falcons. Tanny, you want to start?
They fly around.
Dude, they do fly around.
I mean, I cut on the tape the other day. I told you, I'm trying to get get on my game studying. And look, man, I watched the TV copy first because I wanted to hear it because I just saw these guys getting after the ball. And it was crazy because I came to work the next day and you talked about the heavy cover 2 and all that. But it's just beyond looking at them on the defensive side of the ball, what scheme they running. It's just like every man out there getting after the ball. And I've seen that before. I've seen that style of play. I've played against that style of play before. And when y'all mentioned having that coordinator that comes from
New
the
Orleans.
Saints,
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, that's
It's
crazy.
it's weird because when you watch them,
Yeah.
it's like you're watching the
them,
Saints. Like they play with that kind of really high energy. They're really physical.
Yeah.
They're really detail oriented. It was crazy. Like right when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's
makes
where
sense.
it is. That's
Yeah.
where it comes from. I like that's great.
Well, they
insight.
scary. They're a scary team to play because
Yeah.
they come in kind of no-named
Yeah.
and all young guys.
Yeah.
So you don't know you in a fight till you get out there and you start fighting them. I think they're one of the teams that if you ask any team in the NFL, you want to play the Falcons, they kind of gonna bludgeon you. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna play old-fashioned football, and that gives them the ability to control games, muck it up, make it look nasty, and actually come to beat you. So
This is
scary.
This is kind of a little bit of a hot take, but they are the San Francisco 49ers. Like early in the developmental process. Like they haven't quite found their quarterback yet,
Yeah.
but they're built the same way. They've got a very complicated, nuanced rushing attack. They've got a very maybe the next Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
and
Bijan
Robinson.
Yep.
And then they've got a defensive scheme that plays – it's not the same scheme as the 49ers, but it's one of those ones where it's funny because you're watching Houston, right?
Yeah.
Houston is obviously DeMeco Ryans comes from San Francisco, and they play with their hair on fire.
Most
And so it
definitely.
kind of has that same feel to it. So it's like they're trying to construct their version of what San Fran is.
Where they play dictative defense. Like I like defenses that
Can you explain
dictate
that?
the
Elaborate
terms.
that a little bit.
Like I don't like defenses that literally adopt to the offense, meaning this is what y'all do, so we gonna do this. No, I like defense say this is what we do.
This is who we are.
And y'all gonna have to adjust to us. We're not adjusting to you, and that's what the Falcons defense
Tell me
does.
something, though. Isn't it kind of interesting that we talked about DeMeco Ryans and how those guys play with their hair on fire? That's a sign of how he coaches and how he played. And then you talk about that defense over there in Atlanta, how they're playing, flying around the ball, and it looks like something that we saw before.
Yeah.
We saw with the Saints. It's crazy to hear that, right?
Yeah.
And say, that's all you need. You need to put on your identity is basically what your coach instills in you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we always ask the question, is it about more so having the guys?
Yeah.
Or
Is
taking
it
on
the
that identity
coordinator?
or having a guy? You just talked about the
The
coaching part of
coordinator,
it.
man,
So,
is so important.
Yeah.
I think a great coordinator can get 11 good guys to be dominant.
Yeah.
I think okay coordinator with 3-4 great players can skim by. But it's always going to be them games that you lose because of these guys. When you got 11 of us doing the same thing at the same speed, at the same tempo, we become dangerous. Very dangerous.
We become one.
Yeah. And Jason, can you look up the scores for their last couple games, please? Thank you. But I think they've been in very defensively.
Yeah.
They've been very productive in terms of keeping teams to low point totals, and the offense has kind of let them down. That's kind of to your point. Like, it's a group that's elevated. So let's go through their personnel real quick. Obviously, they run a 4-down structure, but they it's a little bit different than like what you'd see us run, for example, or Houston run, or San Francisco. So what they do, it's like they kind of get in like what I would call a 55 front. So they have someone head up over the tight end, right, a 6 technique. Then they've got a 3 technique to that same side, right, with a outside linebacker on the ball. So they basically cover all the gaps up.
It's flat.
Right? And then they do a shade on the backside with a 5. You know, so it's all the front is completely covered up. And they try to get that one linebacker in the box to be free. Oh, we got the scores, Jason? Yeah, let's check them out real quick.
Week 1 versus the Panthers was a win 24-10.
Okay.
Week 2 was a win 25-24. Lost to the Lions 6-20.
Yeah.
Lost to the Jags 7-23. And then win against the Texans 21-19.
Yeah. So obviously they've kind of kept in that kind of 20-point range. And it's tough sledding because their offense has not been that efficient. So I mentioned the front. In the back end, they kind of play this last year the Saints had the highest rate of cover two-man. Thank you, Fred. And they seem to be bringing that here. And they run it in a way that I think you would like a lot.
I love it.
Because it's very aggressive. They're pressed up. You said flat. Like the front's flat, no doubt, but the back end is like, flat.
It's one of them things where you see it, but it evolves as the play goes.
Yeah.
Like once the play starts, it's what they're showing you is not what you're getting.
Yeah.
All right. And like I said, when they do that inverted 2-man and then inverted 2 where they bring these 2 safeties down, pushing one back, I think that's masterful, especially in the passing league that we in today.
Yeah, so you're going to see some of that stuff. And then in terms of personnel, they got Calais Campbell playing defensive end. You know,
he's never stopped. He's the ageless one.
Yeah, he's like in year 17. He looks good. I mean, he's playing his true college position, defensive end. Yeah. Grady Jarrett, who when I was in Atlanta was, I'd say, a top 3 defensive tackle. I don't know if he's that good right now.
Yeah, I say top 10.
He's still flying around.
But he's still that's a great point. He's still very, very disruptive. David Ayumada from New Orleans, obviously the New Orleans connection. Bud Dupree, a guy that has been around the league for a long time, a good pro, but never like a big, consistent pass rush guy. And then Arnold Ebikete is the guy that they kind of bring to the ball. He was their second-round pick last year, pass rush specialist. So he's kind of playing Sam linebacker, but he's not on the field to play Sam linebacker.
He's on the field to rush the pass.
Correct. Kind of like they used to do with like Brian Arakpo.
I would say Poe.
So
the same thing.
Obviously, if I'm EB, I don't want to get into too many heavy personnel groupings. I don't want to invite that crazy 55 front. I don't want to invite that extra rusher.
Thin them out and slice them up. That's what you have to do.
They got a total of 5 sacks coming into this game.
They're not great pass rushers.
So it's one of those situations where you say, okay, maybe this, you know what, it's going to be interesting to me just to see how we attack what we know they're going to play.
Yeah.
2 under, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 2-man.
And 2-man, 2 under, however you want to name it. It's going to be a lot of zones. It's going to be open. We're going to have windows here and there, but how we attack that?
Yeah.
Do we get them out of it? Do we say, okay, we're going to force you guys to get out of this so we can, or do we not? Do we say stay in this because we're going to run the ball? We're going to stuff it down down your mouth. So I'm just interested just to see what style offense that we run, because we've seen when we play situations or play teams that wasn't really sack happy last week. Those guys came in the game with 2 sacks, and we still ended up having. But I know it was a different game.
Because actually, we didn't talk about that on our show, but the offensive line I thought played pretty good. It just was like, when you're dropping back that much, you're going to get some pressure. But I just want to see, do we come with a different approach? You know what I mean? We've been showing everybody we're going to sit back there and throw the ball.
You're going to think about that 2-man. If you really want to beat it, you got to beat it with your tight end and with your running back.
Can you explain that, Fred?
Because them are the 2 people that, even though we got them 2 high safeties covering us over top, them are the 2 people that can bend that coverage to their wheel because they usually underneath or they going outside. The safeties cannot affect them, especially when they playing high on the wide receiver. So this is a Logan Thomas game.
I was gonna say I'm gonna keep him in my fantasy.
Yeah. This is a Logan Thomas game. This is a Antonio Gibson game.
B-Rob.
Yeah. Well, I say Gibson because him making that catch last week really kind of made me mad because I'm like, he's supposed to be doing this every game. Yeah. Like, get him out there and let him match up with linebackers and beat them.
Because it's going to be in 2 man. That's the matchup you're going to get.
That's
right?
the matchup you want. So I want to see how aggressive we are going to them early.
Yeah.
Like, when I say early and often, if Logan and Gibby or B-Rob ain't got at least 10 attempts by halftime, we got the wrong game plan.
Well, let's talk about that because and they don't play 2 man all the time.
Yeah.
They kind of bounce in between 2 man and they play like a cover 1 structure with another safety in the box, right? There's a man principle.
Tricky covers.
Yeah. Well, and then third down they get. I mean, you're going to see all sorts of crazy stuff. So stay at a third down if you can.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be all the time, but they do have a high tendency of 2 man. They do have a high tendency of 1 man, right?
Yeah.
There's a higher tendency. They also play a lot of match coverages.
Yeah.
So to your point, Fred, like if they were going to come out and play 2 man, which would be smart against us because we like to throw the football so much.
And we got wide receivers everywhere.
So that to me says, hey, let's get you out of that. I want single safety structures, right? Let's run this ball. Because again, if you watch the Houston game, they did a good job early. They came out in 2 man because I think they thought they were going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And then they just pounded Pearson between the tackles, and he was able because it's basically that linebacker and that running back one-on-one.
One-on-one.
And if you can get a blocker up to him, and like there's a hat accounting for that guy in the run game.
Yeah.
So if that linebacker gets covered up at all, you're gonna have like a pretty explosive play.
7-8 yards.
So get him out of that, get him into some base stuff, and say, hey man, like, can you dictate to them a little bit more? I think is a good point. And also, like you mentioned this too, or we talked about it in the breakdown. If you can spread them out a little bit, you can find those matchups you like. Yeah. You can say, oh, I got Gibby with a linebacker, or I got whoever. Because, like, their linebackers are guys that I think are good football players. Mm-hmm. They got Caden Ellis, who's from New Orleans, again, that connection with New Orleans, and Nate Landman, they're good players for this scheme, but when you watch them in, like, coverage situations.
They have weaknesses.
Yeah, so it's like, let's exploit that, right? Yeah. If they're going to play all this man coverage, let's find a way to maximize those matchups for us and make it easy for our young quarterback.
Yeah. This is the other guy's game. Like, when I say other guys, this ain't a Terry McLaurin game. That's your apex predator.
Yeah.
This is the other guy's game.
Yeah.
This is the De'Ami Brown game.
Because he's going to draw a good matchup.
Thank you. He's going to draw the lesser of the matchups. Yeah. And the one thing I can say about this Atlanta team.
Smart today. I want to tell you something smart today.
Well, thank you. You know, it's the sweet potato pie. So, no, it's one of them games where A.J. Terrell, number 1 corner.
Yeah. Good call.
So high. But then the fall off, to the third corner, totally drastic. Yeah. So this is the game that I go in and I say, you know what? The bottom of my roster, this y'all game.
Yeah.
This is the game that y'all dominate.
Yeah, so let's talk about the back end because I think that's really an interesting storyline, honestly, in this game because they got A.J. Terrell, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
They got Grant Ritchie playing strong safety, who's a good player. He's like a 2nd or 3rd round pick from a couple years ago. And then the guy that I think is balling is Jesse Bates III.
Jesse Bates always balls.
He is a good football player. I guess I haven't watched him that much. He's a good football player.
He was a good football player in Cincinnati. He's always been that dude, but sometimes you play on a team that get a little bit more pub than the others. We ain't see a lot of Jesse Bates.
Yeah, but they really rely on him quite a bit, Tana, to like make tackles in the run game from depth.
Very Cam Curl.
To rob stuff. Yeah. He's really good at manipulating young players. Like I think in the I want to say it was the last drive of the Houston game, he's like we talked about your boy Ed Reed. Just disguising coverages. You can tell he's going to throw this out, and he's like looking over here.
Yeah.
The quarterback's, I got it. And he's like, no,
dude, you don't. You don't got it.
So I think that's going to be really challenging for Sam to kind of deal with that guy. And then Jeff Okudah they brought in.
Jeff Okudah, number 3, number 4 pick when he came out?
Yeah.
Not playing opposite of A.J. Terrell? I think he had all the talent in the world, but he couldn't put it on the field.
Yeah.
But that's a great point you just made. What happened? I mean, if you couldn't put it on the field, he's on the field a lot.
The best ability is availability. He was never available. So he never got to the point where I played my first 10 games, I played my next 10 games, and now I got a groove of it. Yeah. He would play 5, get hurt, play 6, get hurt.
He couldn't get in the rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing with him is, like, this is a system that probably fits him a little bit better with the man coverage stuff.
With the 2-man. Yeah. Listen, that's a luxury. Yeah. 2-man said, listen, if I know we going into a game with a 2-man heavy game plan, I ain't worried. I'm sleeping good that night. I'm not getting beat. I ain't got, if Tanner beat me
I
up,
will hear him that morning talking trash to somebody.
Listen, I'm in 2-man all day, baby. You ain't got a chance. Because I know I ain't never got to be on top of you.
Yeah.
I'm always under you.
Yeah.
You never beat me.
Yeah, well, I think, when he was in Detroit, they ran a lot of man, but it's a lot of like zero.
Yeah.
And
it
this
was
is a
zero by
very,
yourself.
He was on the island a lot.
Yeah.
very different situation. And then D. Alfred is their nickel, and he's actually
He's always been good.
he's playing good football. So their back end is good for this system.
Yeah.
They're playing well. I think those matchups you mentioned, Fred, are tough from a reason. I think I love to see Terry on AJ. I love to see that, right? Love to see Jahan on Okuda. Love to see all those matchups. But in terms of what you're talking about, I want the 2 linebackers who are fine football players.
Yeah.
But I want them to cover some people.
A lot of people, not some people. I want them. Listen. I'm going to line. I'm still waiting on that true Curtis Samuel utilization.
This might be a game for that.
This is the game.
I was going to say, you talking about De'Ami Brown. Curtis has been the guy that's just steady been going out there being productive each week.
Quietly.
Yep. So he might be one of those guys that we look at and say how the big game. But Logan is itching. I mean, he's been every week, big catch. Still haven't had that game where you can say had the game from 2 years ago that right before he got hurt where he was catching 9 or 10 balls a game and 2 scores. So this might be the week also,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you mentioned this, Tana. This defensive line for them is good. It's productive. They're physical. They don't rush the passer very well outside of a couple guys. And I think the matchups, obviously Grady Jarrett on Sam Cosmi and Sadiq Charles is always a good matchup. But those guys have been playing well.
First of all, Sam Cosmi has the most snaps in the NFL without giving up a sack right now.
Is that true?
Yes, he has like 300 and some snaps and no sacks given.
And Charles has been playing lights out.
I think he's been playing well.
He's been playing well.
Even in the game versus Philly, where he's going against Jalen Carter, I thought he did a pretty nice job kind of managing that elite. So I do think this is a game where the thing that you touched on this, Tana, and I think it's a really good point. The personnel doesn't really scare you. The back end's good. The middle level's fine. The defensive line's okay. It's the energy that they play with.
They play with tenacity.
Yeah.
And they play with speed.
Yeah, all over the field. And that's why I say makes them a dangerous team.
And that's what I loved about Greg Williams. I got here in 05, and literally, I'm talking about, we walk into the practice field, and the defense was running to the end zone. I'm like, the hell going on?
That's what we do.
And he blew the whistle, and they were I'm like, well, shit, this is what I got to go against in practice today.
Yeah.
And it was that they set the tone. And, like, when we got out there against them, or you saw them go against our scout team, you were like, bro, we shouldn't lose a game. You know what I mean? The way these dudes hunting, so you take on that same personality, that identity of your coordinator, and we get caught up in the whole, got to have this kind of lineman, that kind of linebacker, that kind of secondary. Just give me, like, I think Belichick did it for a long time.
Yeah, he did.
For a long time, he got the right kind of players for what he
likes to do.
For what he likes to do, and they went out there and flew around. I mean, some of those guys, man, you look at those teams, you don't see that many all-pros.
Yeah.
You might have, Ty Law, he's a Hall of Famer.
Ashanti Samuels.
You had the guy who came in with us, played D-line.
Richard Seymour.
Yeah. But even while we was playing, they wasn't like names that you went into the game saying like, oh, this guy's just like all world.
Yeah.
But when you saw them play within that scheme, they became Hall of Famers because of it. You know what I mean?
Totally different. And the one thing Greg Williams used to tell us, the reason he ran us so hard to start practice, because he said, you're going to play the game tired.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure you're tired before practice starts. And we built on that.
Yeah.
And that's how we kept relentlessly, never stopping.
And then you got to think about it, too. Arthur was here.
Yeah, Arthur was here.
Around them same guys.
The same guys.
So regardless of who they have as a coordinator, I'm pretty sure he
incorporated
some of that same
all
stuff.
of that.
Yeah.
That's something I want to ask you guys real quick. I know this is a little bit off script, but how do you build that culture? How do you build that mindset? Is it just that the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator's got to have it, or is it something that can be taught to a coordinator? Or like, what do you think? Like,
they got to drill it and re-drill it and drill it. Like the one thing I can say, Greg did a great job of from the first day he was here. He sit down individually with all of us, and he did not talk about what we did good, only what we did bad. Yes. Listen, and he called out a couple of us in the first meeting. Me, one of them. Fred Smoot, no, you can cover. I need you to tackle every play. So he literally set the tone. Nobody's bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
We are one unit. We do it one way, my way.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, we will follow.
Yeah.
Like we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And once you teach us a habit, we run with that habit. And the best coaches that I played for, they are habit creators.
But Logan, you know the kind of answer. You have the answer to that. I mean, you've played under the Shanahans, and you watched how they was teaching us from day one what they wanted the offense to be like.
Yeah. And
it wasn't like it didn't happen day one, but when it happened, you saw us how we was like a well-oiled machine. That thing was just running. Like the year that we had probably our most success in 2012, like it wasn't a guy that came off the bench that couldn't go out there and give it to you. You know what I'm saying? So I remember telling folks, like, I'd come home like, yeah, they got me I'm just coming in on third down, but I'm eating. Like I'm eating more now
situationally
because they just knew how to put you in certain spots. Oh, I'm gonna bring Tanner in here. Oh, we got little A gonna take the top off. We got Leonard. Leonard's gonna do everything underneath. 15 yards. He gonna catch everything. Like we had guy for guy. We had guys in situations we could
for
put you in.
each job.
So when you look at defenses, you look at offenses. It's about building those guys, getting the right guys for what you're trying to implement. And when you got them, you can just let them go because they're going to listen and they're going to do everything you ask them to do.
Yep.
That's interesting because I do also think that group specifically, that team, they finished that offense finished really well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they emphasized it, but to your point, Tana, they got guys who were finishers.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was a big time finisher. Pierre was a finisher. And it kind of made a culture of dudes. The offensive line were all finishers.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but remember the play that
you
Cal,
tooting it.
I got to toot it because but it's one of those situations where Logan only know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Logan, remember that Cowboy game?
Yeah.
The last Cowboy game at home that year, and Cal told me all week, when we gonna run this play, Tanner, you gonna be on the side. I was lined up like I'm in the almost tailback style, and I'm gonna come and crack that DM.
I do remember this.
You remember that?
I do remember this.
Yeah. And the whole week is in my head, like, that's my one play. I gotta make this play happen.
Yeah.
This big ass dude finna come around here. I gotta crack him. Now you looking at me, I was asking myself, how you gonna fit it up, Tanner?
Yeah.
Are you gonna go and fit it up, or are you gonna come through, 100 miles and running and just throw yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, by the time the game started, I was on one.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing myself. I gotta make a play.
I got it.
And I went in there like Crash Dummy. I up into them. Trust me, I failed it, but it was so. I mean, that feeling I had to know I went out there and sold myself everything I had for that play, and it worked.
Yeah.
And that's some of the
big
things.
play.
That's some of the things that Cal will show. Like, look at this. Look at one of our receivers. This guy who we
But that
depend
would
on
make
to
you
go
a
out
great
here.
player because that made you excited.
Yeah.
It wasn't an 80-yard
Yeah.
throw. You sitting here, you didn't burnt everybody, but you sitting here thinking about, hey, I got to crack this player. And by the way, one of my favorite, because, defensive players don't really like offensive players, one of my all-time favorites is Pierre Garçon.
Oh.
Like, I love Pierre. He's a good dude. Like, I enjoy Pierre.
But as far as culture, it was the coaching. It was also the dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like having a dude like you said, Fred, that's in there stressing about, man, I got to cut this defensive end.
Yeah, he
I
ain't
gotta
thinking
make it
about
happen.
beating somebody 80
Yeah.
yards. He like, man, I need to make this block so my boy can ball
Yeah,
out.
somebody get
Like, that's what a team is.
And I guess my point is that's kind of what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball in Atlanta.
They teaching them that, look, man, this is what you can get. This is what you get from doing your job. When I put you in a situation, I'm going to put you in a situation to win.
Yeah.
And you got to go out there and sell yourself for your teammate, because if you don't, then we're going to be on the other side of how that feels.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel that
Yeah,
way.
one man short, make the whole team short. They're just the way it goes.
So let's talk about the offense a little bit. I think this group is interesting. They've got a lot of unique playmakers. We made the comparison earlier to them being San Francisco.
Tall. That's what I think.
They are
Tall, big guys.
They are.
Kyle Pitts. Great names, by the way.
Yeah.
Football names.
Yeah.
They had no other job offers but football with these names. Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I'm shocked. And I don't want him to have that breakout game against us.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting on the breakout game
They
from
got
him.
another tight end, too, Jay Smith. He's leading. Actually, I think Pitts was dealing with something because the other guy was eating Smith.
Johnny Smith.
John's
an excellent football player. But what I was going to say is, much like San Francisco, they have like these unique playmakers.
Yeah.
But their playmakers are different. Like in San Francisco, they're all short, kind of
Powerful.
running. Yeah, powerful guys. Here it's like Drake London 6'5". Matt Collins is 6'5". What's up?
Yeah, Mac Hop.
This is the 2000 UCLA wide receiver core. Like,
look at this guy.
like,
way to
J.J.
put it
Stokes,
out
Danny
there.
Farmer.
Stokes, all those guys.
J.J. Stokes.
Yeah.
Well, what about the
other guy
old Detroit Lions
That's
with
true.
Roy
Oh,
Williams
yeah, with all those
and,
big
and
guys.
Charles Rogers
Yeah, all
and
those
all
tall
them
guys.
guys, tall guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But these guys are like tough guys.
they can play.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's like they're like Matt Collins is a traditionally a special teams guy.
Yeah.
Balled out last year, got paid. Is in Atlanta.
Yeah.
They use him like a tight end, and
Yeah.
he does not mess around, man.
No.
He's a big dude.
No, he about his business.
Drake London is about his business. He's
Yeah.
going to block. They can make contested catches. You mentioned Kyle Pitts, and everyone talks about him as a receiver. Like, he's a physical blocker,
Yeah,
man.
he's
He's
a
a
physical
physical Jonnu Smith, physical dude in the run game.
And then the one guy we haven't talked about yet who killed us a year ago. Well, he almost killed us a year ago, and he's just getting back.
Cardell Patterson.
And he's big too, man.
yeah.
And then
Patterson just got back in the lineup.
Patterson, and then Bijan Robinson is the
Yeah.
other guy.
And don't forget about Algier.
Algier,
Like they got
it.
serious
Yeah.
talent in Atlanta right now. I think they just haven't matured.
Yeah.
So-
but not even that either. It's just having a young quarterback.
I think that's it.
The
Yeah.
young quarterback plays he can affect that situation of, who you have as, star players. Because if he's not on, then they're not on.
Well, that's why Kyle Pitts not on.
Yeah.
Because smart quarterbacks know my tight end is my safety vessel.
And last week, I think he had 7 catches for
He played well last week.
75 yards.
Yeah.
So he was kind of coming around. They were finding ways to get him the football. Drake London, again, kind of that contested catch. He's showing shades of being a number one guy.
Man, he's trust me, I ain't gonna lie. It was him. It was the other kid that went to New Orleans. Those two guys.
Olave.
Olave. Those two guys was like, man, they can fall to us. And Olave ended up going in that spot. We just traded out of it.
Yeah.
But man, like we couldn't miss. We
Yeah.
ended up getting Jahan, so
Yeah.
we couldn't miss in that draft when it came to wide receivers.
Yeah. Well, see, the one thing about Drake London, he got what I call a catch radius, I love tall receivers because they have a catch radius for bad passes.
Yeah, you
Drake
catch anything.
Drake London has a lot of radius for bad passes.
Same thing with Pitts.
Same thing with Pitts.
They've
So
kind of built their receiving core like that.
you don't need an accurate quarterback for them to connect.
But now what you need to do is knowing that he's a young guy, knowing that he's going to make mistakes, knowing that you don't want him settled. You don't want him settled in that pocket. We need to have him on the run all day because he have guys that can make up for his bad passes. You know what I mean? So make every pass one of those contested, on the run.
Yeah.
Got to get it out of his hand early. We have to make him, worry or scramble a little bit. Not
So
let
what
him
would
be
you
comfortable.
rather us do? Shut the run down and force them to pass it?
Yeah.
Shut the pass down and force them to run it?
We have to force him to pass it.
Yeah.
I think we have to force him to pass it because that kid with that number 7 on his back, he bringing back flashbacks to Michael Vick when he wore that 7. And he's not a quarterback; he's a running back. So it's just watching him get himself
Special.
going. Nah. You talking about Christian McCaffrey? I think.
Bijan Robinson is
Look,
special.
first, let me put it like this. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
We wowed by Christian McCaffrey, but Bijan Robinson with less can do more. I think. I'm just putting that out there.
He's special talent. I think the thing you said something about shutting the run down to force them to pass. So much of what they do. I mean, it looks like San Francisco. It's a very similar offense. They run all of their stuff. That runs, passes. They all come out of the same formations. So run, play, pass, keeper. It all looks the same.
Yeah.
And they're able to kind of find these big plays and create space for the quarterback, but it all looks the same. So the thing I think that is maybe the most important thing is this game is disrupting game flow. Can you disrupt the game flow? Because they want to sit there and hand the ball to Patterson, and hand the ball to Robinson, hand the ball to Algiers. They want to get multiple tight end sets. They want to run all this reverse double pass. They are a creative, innovative offense, but they can only do that if they're on schedule.
Yep.
Can we score a touchdown on our first drive, get a stop, score again? So I think that kind of gives our high-level thoughts on the Falcons offense and what's going on there. But let's talk about us a little bit now. This is a Commanders show. And let's talk about where the Commanders' advantages are. So we're going to take a couple people here. I'm going to say a name or a position group, and we're going to say where we feel our advantages are. So, Fred, I'll start with
Secondary.
I'll start with you. You want to start? No, let's just go wherever you want to go. You can go secondary if you want.
Yeah.
But where do you think our advantages are matching up with the Falcons?
When I look at this team, I go D-line versus quarterback.
D-line versus quarterback.
And I think we have the guy, especially Chase coming off the game he had, that you don't need to sack him to dominate him. You need to pressure him to dominate him. Quarterbacks don't make mistakes in the NFL. Quarterbacks underseas make mistakes. And I think this front four, especially the defensive ends, when I look at their tackles, I say, you know what? We got an advantage right there. That's where the game should take a tilt from. And I think Ritter give us the game, but we did bring up the stat. He hasn't lost a home game yet.
Yeah, and also I think it's just important to touch on this. Like that, they have kind of sneaky one of the better O-lines in football. They've got Jake Matthews, who's a top probably 10 left tackle in the NFL. Matthew Bergeron, rookie from Syracuse. Drew Dahlman, good center. Chris Lindstrom might be the best guard in football. Like he is playing really good football. And then Caleb McGarry was a former first-round pick, graded super well last year for PFF, is injured, might play, looks like he's going to play. But I do think that matchup's interesting because in between the D-line and the quarterback is this offensive line that's pretty good and then is also elevated by the Atlanta scheme, right? Because they do run the football so
where
much.
where would you judge them if I said the Eagles offensive line, Philadelphia offensive line versus the Falcons offensive line? How do they grade up together?
I think the Philly O-line's incredible.
It's top. I think they're the top line.
I agree.
And I think this defense has shown they can go punch for punch with that offensive line. That's why when I look at the Atlanta Falcons, it doesn't scare me. The only thing scares me is the fact that the Falcons are dedicated to running the ball.
Yep, and so much of what they do is play action based. And I look at, and so actually I think they compare fairly closely with the Bills. Yeah. With the Bills' offensive line, and that offensive line was elevated because they ran so much play action, they did so much keepers, they moved the quarterback, and that's like built. That is what this offense is. That wasn't a game plan thing the Bills brought in.
No, that's who they are.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's what the Falcons are going to do.
Yeah,
and that's going to make it really tough, I think, for the defensive line.
I haven't seen our defensive line get beat until I watched them last week, that Thursday night. To me, I feel like that was the first time I saw them,
get dominated.
Got dominated a little bit, and it wasn't like every day was just getting beat up. It was just like Chicago ran the ball better than I expected them, to run.
Shocked you.
So that led me to believe that they just wasn't prepared for what, you know what I mean? So I think it's about preparation, man. Look, you come in here regardless of who they have. I think our D-line is better than half of the offensive linemen that they're going to go against, collectively. So if one of them going to take on one, then somebody's finna get open. Somebody's going to get free. Somebody's going to get loose. Yeah. It's all about the scheme. It's all about how they're prepared to go out there and dominate those guys in the front. So when it comes to talking about who has a better, I think we have the edge. I think we have the edge with what we have because most offensive linemen or offensive line don't have to deal with multiples. They deal with one or two guys. They deal with the guys on the outside. They got to worry about the guys inside. They got to worry about the guys outside. So that gives us the advantage over what they have in front and the quarterback.
And I think the inside guys can change this game more than the outside guys.
Yeah.
The shortest route to the quarterback is right through the A and the B gap. And if you're going to stop this running game to force them to throw, it's going to have to be in the A and the B.
Yeah, when I was going to say, like, you have Matthew Bergeron, who's a rookie. He's playing okay, but not playing great. And he's going to have to go up against John Allen every single play. And I don't care how John Allen's been playing. Like, if he's tired, he should win that matchup every time. Even Jake Matthews, a good player, he struggles against really big physical defensive ends. And that's what Chase has been doing, right? Yeah. So I do think, and Caleb McGarry, he's a big kind of mammoth right tackle. Yeah. But I think the length and the speed of Sweat are going to be an issue. So I do think there are opportunities, like you're saying, Tana, in those one-on-one matchups to capitalize. But also, like we talked about earlier this week, like I do think the staff needs to say, hey, we got a good group, but how can we maximize that group with pressures, with stunts, with different things?
Putting different men in the box to free up some of the guys. Like,
can we attack their pressure rules? All those different things are going to be super important for that D-line to be the D-line that we all know and love. Tana, you got something?
They did it 2 weeks ago. I mean, they showed us that kind of play against who we thought was the best offensive line that they was facing up to that point. So, in Philly. So I think it could be done just all about the game planning and all about preparation and being ready. You know what I mean? Being ready for the matchup. You can't, like I'm going to keep saying, they slept walking that game on Thursday, and that's not them. And we probably won't see that team effort no more this year,
Well, the thing about it is we got to reverse engineer this thing. We got to put ourselves in the Falcons head coaching thing and say, how would I attack this D-line of Washington? First of all, I would do a lot of screens, a lot of draws, and force them to run sideline to sideline and tire them up while I run the ball down their throat. force them to like it. All right, first of all, I would run at the defensive end. That's how you stop pass rushes.
Yeah.
You run off tackle, you run at them, first, second down, then you pass, play action. They're tired. They can't rush the passer. So I'm saying if they want to do that against us, it's going to take the linebackers to step up. Like Cody Barton, Jamin Davis, at one point, they going to have to take over some games this year.
Yeah.
Like, this is a game that's finna test them.
Yeah.
Like, if the Falcons going to say, we're going to run at you, and we're going to make you like it.
Yeah.
All right? They're going to have to step up in this game and stop them from running
But
the ball.
I don't think neither one of those guys going to shy away from that because I've seen it already this year. Like, we can talk about, where Cody has been not playing the traditional style of middle linebacker where you seeing that guy stuff that hole instead of, receiving some of that
doing
stuff.
A lot of
doing a lot of chasing. But I've seen Jamin Davis go up in there and show numerous of times this year that he want all the smoke. So at the end of the day, you ask for it, you might, those guys might give it to you. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys step up too if that challenge presented.
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting one. And again, you said, don't run at them. This whole defense, the whole offense is outside zone based.
Yeah.
They're going to attack the edges of the defense. They're going to run a lot of toss crack. They're going to find ways to get those backs to the perimeter in space. And last year, one of the things about outside zone is everyone thinks it's going to hit outside.
No.
It just stretches you in a way. And then Bijan Robinson,
picks his hole.
Picks their hole. So
vision, man.
It's going to be a lot, man. It's a big lift this week in terms of stopping the run, being committed to stopping the run, winning your physical matchups. I do think we have better guys on the defensive line. One of the matchups that I think is an advantage for the Commanders is EB versus Ryan Nielsen. Nielsen is the defensive coordinator for them. And he's a first-year defensive coordinator, but I do think that EB, I've just been super impressed with his approach. And a lot of people say, we're throwing the ball too much, all this stuff.
I don't want to hear all that.
But I think he does a good job of creating space in a defense and finding matchups you like and putting Sam in a good position to find those matchups. And I think if you're going to play two-man as much as this team is playing, I think EB's the guy that's going to say, hey, I have something for this, and we're going to exploit
With
that.
screens, two-man, if the DB turns his back and I'm running screens, when I turn my head back
Fred's
around,
big on screens today.
the running backs are in my face.
Yeah.
Like two-man,
that's gonna
all
kill you on
this
screen.
is luxury. It has some weaknesses that I think we can exploit. And the thing about it is, with EB is, how is he going to try to attack it? And I tell people all the time, man, I said this earlier, Sam Howell has more yards than Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts.
That's crazy.
That's crazy stats to think that this young man is doing it. So he's ahead of his learning curve. Yeah. But I think this is going to be a challenge for him.
Oh, this defense is good.
This defense will be a challenge for Sam. So I wouldn't be shocked if he started off slow.
Yeah. But I won't even we talk about this all the time. You don't have to necessarily drop him back and try to put the pressure on him. You don't want we can't keep allowing this guy to take on that pressure. He's in a situation where he's been kind of taking on more than he probably need this year because of some of the games we've been in where the score is lopsided and we have to get into a pass-happy offense. I think you go out there and you construct things to look similar to how they were, in Philly. Let's go out here and move him a little bit, bring in extra, guys here and there, maybe see a couple of 12 and 13 personnels, maybe get him outside the pocket, get him in a rhythm and get that game into a flow to where now we're dictating so much that defensively they have to change to what we're doing, and now you can hit them in the mouth. Now you can do some other things.
50 yards rushing for Sam Howell. 50 yards rushing this game.
So the other thing I was going to say is the reason I said EB is I do think that this is a team you can run on, you can attack that two-safety structure, and you can find explosive plays. So that's my matchup, EB versus their defensive coordinator, and I think that'll be a good match. That's what I think it's going to be really compelling. Tana, do you have a matchup that you're like, I think the Commanders have an advantage here?
I tight ends.
Okay.
You talking about cover two, and you talking about just their linebackers not, they're going to be put in a situation where they have to cover. Yeah. We want them. You can play the run good, you can fly around, do all that stuff, but can you cover?
Yeah.
Can you stop what we do inside, whether we're doing it with our slot receiver in Curtis Samuel or having Logan Thomas go out there and have one of his better days or have one of the games that we expect him to have this week. I think the linebackers against our tight ends should be the matchup that I'm favoring us to win,
I'm challenging our tight ends to get yak. They make catches.
Yeah.
but no yards at the catch.
But I don't even necessarily think we need that. Just move the chains.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
like last week, Logan did a pretty good job. He had 9 catches.
Yeah, 9 catches.
And just getting first downs.
Just getting first, move the chain.
But
That's
see,
all I care about.
The thing about it is, with a young quarterback, the shorter throws, the safer throws, with the unexpected yards at the catch changes the game.
Well, I will say this. With the presented defense, if it's presenting that they have to get rid of the ball early, and you have those, I need to see them running a little bit. But if you're moving the chain, I care less about how far you getting down the field, after the catch, because you're a tight end. We just want you to make that secure catch and shorten things when it comes to just down the distance. I feel like if you put us in a situation where we have shorter, conversions, where the second is short, third is short, then you did your job.
Is this a Cole Turner game? Like, at one point, he got to have a game. Like,
well, I mean,
we waiting on that game.
He's your third tight end, but I do think he presents, to your point, matchups.
A challenge.
Yeah. The other one I just was just wanted to throw out there because I know we're really high in this guy is Jahan Dotson versus Jeff Okudah. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, you got to find matchups.
Yeah.
Like, what matchups do you like? We talked about Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
We mentioned Gibson in certain situations on those linebackers, Tanner. You talked about that. But I also think, like, at some point, like, if Terry's drawing A.J. Terrell, which I think Terry can win that matchup, like, Jeff Okudah is a guy that, again, this defensive system seems to be supporting him a little bit better. Yeah. But I want to see Jahan win some one-on-one matchups.
Jahan actually has the advantage in this. They played against each other in college, and with him being such a great route runner and Okudah being so long, usually long corners don't like shorter guys.
Yeah.
We lose sight of them. I think Jahan can get in his blind spots, is what we call them, and I think he can use his talent against him. Yeah. Like he can actually like have that game where I can route him up all day long. The question is, do we get him started early and often? Because that ain't something you can start late. Like, you need the first quarter be like, we putting you on watch that we coming at you.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask both you guys is, this receiving group for Atlanta, big, tall, basketball, tight end.
Lengthy. My type
of
game.
How do you think our guys match up with that group? Because when you watch the film, there's not a ton of space in the defense. You know, the receivers don't create a ton of space. Mm-hmm. They create space because they're big.
So they catch ball, contested ball catches.
And, obviously Forbes isn't the biggest guy. Fuller's not the biggest guy.
St. Juice.
He's a tall guy. But, what do you think about that matchup, Tim?
I think it when you have Fred talks about this all the time. When you just have to sit there and play a guy, and the only problem he presents is his height, that kind of favors our DBs. You know what I mean? I think those guys would rather play those tall guys, big guys, because to me I think they're better coverage guys than we give them. You know what I mean?
They
and if you can't beat them and get separation like some of these other teams has, it's going to be a long day for them. So I think that favors us a little more, having to play against these big guys. Now, when it comes to boxing them out, who knows how things going to be.
Where
but I think in the open field, we'll win that battle.
And especially with a quarterback who's not super accurate. Like I think about Drew Brees when he had Marcus Colston, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
Like, he's able to put it
right where it needs to be.
And those guys are awesome. So, all right. So I think that's a pretty good comprehensive breakdown of what we're going to see from Atlanta this week.
That was very intellectual conversation we had.
I know.
Y'all really,
you brought your Farmer Fred, your all this stuff, but you brought your
a couple more cents this time. Eating that sweet potato gave him a little more.
I brought my intellect to the table today.
There's something in that sweet potato that he eating.
Oh my gosh!
It was the pumpkin pie that did.
I know. Change it completely. All right. So real quick, we're gonna do game predictions.
Yep.
Who wants to start?
I'd start it.
Okay. Game predictions. Down in Atlanta, where Desmond Ridder has never lost a game at home. Fred.
Hey, Desmond gets his first loss at home. We're down at halftime by 10. It's shocking the world. Everybody's losing their mind in Washington, D.C. We come back to win the game by 3. I'm going 33 to 20. 33 to 30.
33 to 30.
Yeah, we're giving up a lot of points right now.
Yeah. Okay, 33 to 30. What you got?
Yeah, I'm not giving you no win or loss. I think every week we can sit here and be company men and say we're going to win the game.
Company man.
I predicted a loss against the Bills. Just for
you did.
I predicted one last 2 weeks ago against the Eagles. Honestly, this team just have to show us that they want it. You know what I mean? Like, they have to go out there and play. Like, I'm rooting for them. Who I'm rooting for? I'm rooting for us.
Yeah.
But I'm not just giving them a win. They got to go out there and show us. So it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
And I want to see how good we are. I want to see us.
You want to see us finish. Yeah, that's what I want to see us do.
I was going to say,
and play a complete game.
This seems like a game, Tana, to your point, that is it's the energy of Atlanta's defense, the energy, the physicality of their offense. We got to meet them.
Match that.
We got to meet them. So if they do win, it's going to be a messy, bloody affair. It's going to be like 21-20, 23-20, and that could be Atlanta's score. That could be Washington's score. It's a close game. It's whoever gets the ball last, kind of in that 2-minute situation on the drive, who makes the least mistakes, who protects the football, all those things, and it's gonna be a football game, like a classic bloody nose football game down there, which I'm kind of excited to see.
I'm with you, Dewey Cox.
Dewey Cox, because I'm smell blind.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have a special event.
Yes.
Earlier this week we had the pie bake-off, Zach Selby versus Farmer Fred.
Yeah.
But now we have AP Anna.
Yeah.
Farmer Fred.
Yeah.
Crossover event. Anna, AP Anna, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well considering the circumstances.
Well,
How are
she
you
did
guys?
have a raccoon stuck in a attic this week, so she had lost her mind.
You have a raccoon in your attic?
Yeah. Well,
What?
Yeah. It's insane.
Rocket raccoon in
We
her
named
rack.
him Sheldon.
Did
We
you
wanna
did
keep
you have
him as a
someone
pet.
come get him, or
Named
what
him
happened?
Sheldon.
Yeah, we named him. He was up there long enough.
Lord
yeah.
have mercy.
So did you hear him like
I was
scratching
like-
around up there?
Yeah, I was like reading a book, and then I was like, hold on, I gotta show you.
Yeah. Oh, she got a video of like just him scratching the wall
Guys, it's
and
crazy.
trying to text his mama and all kinds of stuff.
How do you?
Oh, that's what
That's
you
the
heard?
sound.
Yeah, you can hear my landlord talking. Hold on. Just, here, let me take it back to the video.
Yeah, hey,
I would've
listen, it's one of those things where I told her she should have called me.
'Cause you know
What
everything.
the hell
Why
are
she
you
call
gonna do?
Hey, first of all, I'm from Mississippi. I didn't
I
handle
don't
a
get-
raccoon before.
But raccoons don't mess around
Hey,
now,
first of all,
bro.
I was a part of a raccoon wrestling league.
So Anna,
Yes.
so do you know anything about raccoons, Anna?
No, which led to
I'd have got
a
the hell out
lot
the
of
house.
struggle.
Yeah.
Okay. So I call my landlord, and he comes up and he sees that there are some holes. Like the raccoon somehow got scared away. He saw that there were some holes, so he's like, okay, I'm going to patch up the holes. The raccoon takes his little raccoon hands, pries open, and breaks the wood on top of the holes. So we got back in, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. This is what led to maybe
Super raccoon.
some dicey decision making on my end from like desperation to get the raccoon out. And okay,
She almost poisoned the whole house.
yeah.
What?
Let me just hold on. I was just so desperate. So my landlord, he was like, just look up something on, there's gotta be something. It's like 9 p.m. on like a Sunday night. I'm just whatever. And on Google, should I even say what it, okay, I'll just say it and you can. It said to soak tennis balls in ammonia.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm
and
with it
put
so
them
far.
there because it smells bad.
Or you can get
Yeah.
mothballs, either one.
Yeah.
Well, apparently
Mothballs don't work with raccoons.
Oh,
But
it's not
also,
strong enough?
apparently, tennis balls and ammonia don't either,
Yeah.
and they're also not
Poisonous.
only detrimental to the raccoon, but detrimental to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my god. So
what happened, Anna?
So we put them there, and I was like,
You
kind
put
of
'em where?
guessing
In
in
the
the
attic.
Inside
So
the
like,
house.
let's paint the picture. Is there a door? You walk up, you put them in,
It's like next to. It's like there's like a crawl space next to my room that is also like.
and so you walk in there with
Like
Well,
ammonia.
I
7 tennis
didn't.
balls
I
soaked in
didn't.
ammonia.
My landlord did. I did not touch them. He touched them with his bare hands, which I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Is ammonia?
better go check on
I
it.
know
It's
if you
like
inhale it,
toxic.
but not to your touch, is it? If you
Nah,
breathe
it
it.
ain't gonna break you
burns.
out in a rash or nothing.
So, anyways,
Fred,
Plus,
geez.
you smell blind.
I know.
So I
I'll
like
be
have
all
all
right.
my windows open. I'm like, things are not gonna end well here. We have my fan going, and the next day I was like, can you take these out, please? Because at the office,
Could you smell
everybody's
them?
Well, I
Or
was
you
coming
smell
down
like
with, I was
ammonia?
coming down with a cold.
Yeah, she did smell like ammonia 2 days ago.
Stop! Don't tell me that. Funny. No. Okay. No. Anyways, so I tell him to take him out, please, and then I'm like freaking out. My parents like telling me, they're like, it's probably fine. It's probably not enough to kill you, but definitely should get him out of the house. They're like, you should get him out of there. And so I'm like, this isn't enough for me. So I called poison control, and I'm like, am I gonna die? And they were like, no, it would have happened way earlier.
before. Like,
You'd already be dead.
Like you'd have been texting in death. I'm dead.
So anyways, that was my dumb moment of the week. But Fred was like, we also got a raccoon trap in there in case he decided to come
Okay.
back and break through again, yet another layer. And they say that raccoons like bacon and marshmallows.
So
Fred told me that wasn't true.
I told you that bacon wasn't enough. I told you to dig in the garbage and get garbage
You know
and
this
put the
dude lie all the
garbage.
time, man.
No, get the
In my room.
because raccoon's like a mixture of smells,
Yeah.
not just
Like
one
a
bacon
concoction.
smell. It ain't
But
like
I'm
a
sure-
raccoon ran to a pig and be like, you know what, I'm gonna bite you on the hip.
I mean,
That's bacon.
God. And so did you put bacon in the marshmallow?
It didn't work.
It is bacon. Well, because we put more wood over. We reinforced it some more. But you could just hear him like prying up the wood. It was crazy. It was a crazy weekend.
So is the
So
raccoon
basically,
still
you
there?
need a BB gun.
So far, no. Well,
Oh, I love
I've
it.
heard there's some
All that other shit out the
backwoods-
door, I'm gonna shoot you.
There's some real interesting ways to combat a raccoon, and I had to deal with it. It was quite a week.
So is the raccoon status? What's the raccoon status?
Shell has not been back.
Oh, so the ammonia worked?
Let's knock on wood. Let's knock on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
So
say that.
it's
No pun
I've had a
the
couple.
ammonia's gone.
So I have an attic at my house.
Did you put ammonia in there?
No, I called an exterminator.
Yeah.
And so
Well, it was Sunday, so we couldn't.
so we called an exterminator. This is like a normal person would. It was Sunday also. They came by the house.
Yeah, they do work on Sundays, right?
Because it's an
They
exterminator.
might be watching football.
And
Not
I was
at
like,
9 o'clock though.
I was like, oh, I think there's a squirrel or something in the attic.
Yeah.
And this, he's a big burly guy, goes up in the crawl space and he just peeks his head in there, and you would have thought it was a damn bear. He
Yeah.
like jumped down off the ladder, landed on the floor, and was like, "It's a damn raccoon in there." And I was like, "Whoa! Like, are we gonna be okay?" Like, and he's like, "No, we got to call, and I got to get a bigger thing, you know."
Yeah.
And so he had to go get like one of those like rope catchers.
Yeah, that they put around their neck.
Yeah, and get him. But it was a big raccoon. Like, let me tell you, I was like, that looks like, it was
don't mess
probably
with
about 30 or 40
Hey, see, you
pounds.
should have just scrambled him some eggs. If you would have scrambled some eggs on the stove, set the eggs down, the raccoon would have came to him.
All right. So, Anna, in conclusion, you're okay?
In conclusion, we're okay.
We didn't die. No ammonia poisoning. No
no.
rabies.
None.
Because, like, they like mess up dogs and stuff
Yeah, I was
now.
gonna say I couldn't.
Raccoons like
deal with
possums to
rabies
me.
in
Them two
season.
things I don't mess with them, man.
Possums, dude. Possums are so funny.
Shit,
Possums are useless like pumpkins. Right?
She's
Like,
big though.
I'm just saying.
You get
They
the
are-
right
they
kind
look
of
like big
possum.
rats.
You get
I'm
the right
asking,
kind of possum,
what's
boy.
the use of a possum?
What's up,
I was
Anna?
going to just say, speaking of pumpkins, I have one final take I need to ask of you all. And I kind of asked this yesterday. I was told the other day by some family members that the only way to eat candy corn is to open the bag, dump the candy corn in the trash, and to eat a Reese's instead.
That is the only way to eat candy corn.
What
Because
are
that's
your
old people
thoughts
candy.
on
Candy,
candy corn?
candy corn is good, man.
Thank you, Tana.
Well, candy
Some
corn
people
is
listen
for-
to me. I'm a candy corn.
No, candy corn is for people 70 and older. Like, you should have an AAP
Or-
card
or
to
like-
candy
Just
corn.
like
Or
you baking
young-
every day
or
for
young-
a damn old
or-
person.
No.
Or young kids. Like,
First of all,
little kids
my
will eat
kids
it.
don't eat candy corn. Like, if
Well,
I
I'm
give my
saying-
kids candy corn, they'd be like, no, I don't want any vegetables today. All right? Now, candy corn is one of them things like fruitcake. It's useless. Like, nobody actually like fruitcake. Nobody likes candy corn.
You like candy corn? And you like
That
candy
don't
corn.
shock
I
me
do.
that Tana
So
like candy
why
corn.
do you both like candy corn?
Because they old.
They just have a sweet taste. I
Yeah,
like
it's
the
just like
taste.
sweet.
Tastes like
It's
flavored
like
wine.
nothing that just like say, oh man, I take candy corn over this candy. No, it's not that. I
It's
just like candy
there's
corn.
candy corn there.
Yeah,
If there was candy
eat-
corn in
I
front of
never-
me,
Tana is 80 years old. All right? He's
Boy, please.
always been Uncle Tana. He
If you
eats
had to
candy
judge
corn.
who older, they would say Fred over me.
I will say,
Motherfucker know
Tana,
everything in the book. I'm like a kid still. I'm still learning from him.
I know we learned a lot about raccoons.
knows everything.
from Farmer Fred today.
Yes.
So
Yeah, scrambled eggs.
that's your so I can't even dignify
Hey,
that with a
raccoons love
response.
breakfast.
All right, well that's gonna do it for today's show. That's our breakdown of the Falcons. Thank you, AP Anna, for that wonderful story. That's awesome.
you, Anna.
Candy corn on the fence. Leave a comment about whether or not you like it. If you like these podcasts, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave comments on the YouTube page. We really appreciate it.
I had a chipmunk in my attic.